I'm gonna do something here real quick and try to do this backwards. I'm gonna teach you guys a couple of ways on how to run a 400, right? Hopefully you can see this to run a 400. You see that? Kind of messed that up. Let me see here. How to run a 400 meter dash. All right. So let's talk about this for a second, right? Was how to run a 400 meter dash. There's a couple of ways that you can do this. I guess I'll make an oval here, right? Because the track is like an oval. And you know what? I might actually do like a whole breakdown on this one day because so many people ask this question. So let's just say like the starting line is up here. And we know we got to get around the track, so to speak, for the 400. And you go, hey, well, what do I do here? How do I run this 400? What's up, Pistol? How do I run this 400? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing here that that will help me run a faster time? And so let's just say you got a, I'll use a really simple time, and this may be slower or faster than what you're running right now, but it's all good, right? So let's consider like, you know, for a girl at the high school level, you run a 60-second 400, and then for the boys, let's just go with a 50-second, and you're trying to get under that milestone, right? That's a milestone for most people. A sub 60 and a sub 50, and believe it or not, I know this is going to sound like statistically crazy, but the reality is people who can run under 50 seconds and, excuse me, under 60 seconds for girls, you are relatively faster than 99% of the world's population. Isn't that crazy? Right? Statistically, you are faster than 1% of the world's population. So if you run under 50 seconds in the 400 as a boy, and you run under 60 seconds as a girl, then you are faster than 99% of the population, right? Most people just aren't that fast. And it doesn't sound like it's really fast because they're like, there's a lot of like high school athletes doing this. There may be some middle school athletes even getting to that point. But those are elite athletes at the middle school for one. And then number two, if you're at the high school level, you know, it sounds elite. Those are approaching those elite. Like elite in high school is like 47 or better, right, for the boys, and maybe like 50, 55 or better for the girls for the most part. You know, I know Texas and California and Florida, and I know in Georgia, they've got some really fast runners across the country, man. And they, you know, Texas and California just on a different level, man. There's a lot that goes into that training. But just to kind of help you understand again, that's just that 1%, right? So if you're in that 1%, then you are doing extremely well. But let's talk about this here real quick, okay? So we want to get faster. We want to learn how to run the 400. What are some strategies that'll help us to run a better 400? All right. First and foremost, your first, I'm just going to call it 50 meters. Okay. Your first 50 meters right now are so critical. The first 50 meters of your race, you use what's called the ATP, right? Or in a simple, it's like a version of kind of like rocket fuel, right? It's kind of stored up for you. So in that first 50 meters, we should be doing what's called a sprint out, right? So we'll go first 50, sprint. All right. We have to sprint out. And then you get athletes that are like, oh my God, I'm just going to get so tired. I'm going to die. No, you're not. All right. If you train the way you're supposed to, you'll be just fine. But I'm going to tell you, the alternative to not using that is that you give away a free energy source. It's really that simple, right? And you don't want it. Would you give away, if you're in a car race or a drag race, would you give away gas to other people so they could get past you? Right? No. So in your first 50 meters of your 400, what's up, Sweet and Sassy? In your first 400 of, in your first 50 meters of your 400, you should be sprinting out. You've got to get out of the blocks. As we say on our team, you got to get out, get out, get out, right? So that first 50 meters is going to be real important. After that, you'll typically either settle into your race depending on what it is that you're trying to accomplish or the technique that you're using. But in this first 40 to 50 meters is so critical that it can make or break a race, right? Because if you run it too slow, you're out of the race and out of target, out of striking distance. And if you don't run it properly, then you lose out as well. So this first 40 to 50 meters is very critical. All right, so what do we do after that first 40 to 50 meters? And here are some strategies, right? So again, I'm not telling you what to do here. I'm just going to give you some tools and techniques. You can do a couple of different things. You can do what's called even pace running, where like each of your 100s or your 200s are going to be relatively the same. So for example, if you run 50 seconds, your first half of your race will be 25 seconds. Your second half of your race will be 25 seconds, right? If you run 60 seconds, then the first half will be 30 and 30, right? So you can do this in half. So the rest of you can go 200 and then 200. You can go even pace. And there are some athletes that really like the even pace, and that's fine. The even pace running, it takes a lot of patience. It takes a considerable amount of know-how and technical form, because the effort level changes in the second half of your race. And if you think that they're going to be exactly equal, they're not. You got to account for muscle fatigue, what we call lactic acid buildup, right? Where your muscles start just, we call it the monkey on the back, right? That second half of the race is going to be a little bit harder than the first half of the race. And the reason why I say you also have to be very patient is because even though you might be, if you're running an even race, you might be slightly out of the race at that halfway mark because some athletes might be running faster in that first half of the race. And that's okay, right? That's all right. The patience comes in that second half, right? And you also have to have a concerted effort to get to that finish line come for the second part of that race. All right, so understand that if you decide to do an even pace race, you have to be patient and you have to be willing to train yourself to be able to understand where you are in that race, right? So just know, you can run a 400. First way is an even pace. Again, always that first 50, no matter what, we're getting out of there. And each of these techniques I'm going to show you, we're getting out of there in that first 50 meters, okay? And then what you would do is just kind of settle into your pacing, whatever pacing that might be for you're trying to run. So if you're trying to go under 50 seconds, you might do something like 24.9, 24.9. That'll put you right at a 49.8, right? And you'd be under 50 seconds. If you want to go, 29.9 and 29.9, that'll put you at a 59.8, all right? So that kind of gives you an idea. All right, so that's one way, right? The first way is an even pace, all right? So let's do another one. I appreciate you guys showing up. All right, so the second way, the first way was the even pace, all right? First way was the even pace. Let me just color in my track here. All right, so again, I'm gonna tell you one more time, you have to drive out of here in the first 50 meters, okay? First 50 meters. Again, to use up that quote unquote stored energy. And it's a little bit more than that, but I'm just gonna keep it very simple for you. You're stored up rocket fuel, right? All right, so after that, this second one I'm going to give you is a little bit more common, right? Most people run faster in the first half than they do the second half, right? So we're going to go 200 meters again, right? And So let's just say this is a 200 meter mark. And let's just say, again, we're trying to run under 50 seconds here. We want to go, let's just say 24 seconds here in this first half of our race. And then the second half, this other 200 meters is going to be 25. Now, what will happen in this first part of your race, if you're running it faster, you're going to obviously deal with a little muscle fatigue on the back end. What's up, y'all? And so when you deal with this muscle fatigue on the back end, you have to train yourself to be able to run through that lactic acid buildup, right? So again, if you're trying to run this first 400 meters a little bit faster, you're trying to get under that 60 seconds, you have to train yourself to be able to hit this first 200 meters in about 24 seconds, okay? Now it might be 24xx, whatever that time is, that's fine. But if you go a little bit, you have to make sure you stay under 26 for that second half. So if it's 24.9, but then it ends up being 25.9, it's still going to throw you off. So really your max is about 25 seconds if you decide to run to that 24, right? All right, we got a question. Should I sprint or fast jog it? Hey, Ryan, that is a great question. So I got a question for you. Do you mean sprint or fast jog it on the first part, or are you talking about on the back stretch? Where exactly are you talking about trying to sprint jog it at? That's the question, right? And then also maybe even an explanation around, sprint jogging in a sense, right? So the question is, should I sprint jog the 400, right? First, let's eliminate that last part. Never ever do we want to jog in a 400. The 400 is a straight up sprint, okay? It just matters how you're distributing your energy across the race, right? So again, if you're trying to get under 50 seconds, you really want to be smart here. And again, I went over the even pace. You could go 25-25 or 24-9, 24-9, but you really need to train that at practice, okay? So ideally, well, I'm not going to say ideally, most people, what's up, Matt? Most people will run the first half of the 400 a lot faster than they do the second 400, right? And then they kind of burn out, right? So, are you talking about, okay, so Ryan, you're saying overall. All right. Ryan, what I would suggest is figuring out your strengths, right? Number one, if you wouldn't mind, if you don't mind sharing, what's your PR right now, and then what are you trying to get to? And then I can customize a plan for you depending on your strengths. Also, do you run the 4-2 or do you run the 4-8 combination? Because that'll let me know, what type of speed we're dealing with here, what type of strength we're dealing with, and then your ability to deal with some of that lactic acid buildup and or threshold. That's what we're talking about here, right? So tell me exactly how you, or what events that you do. All right. So you said you ran 1 minute when you first ran it. All right. What grade are you in? Because that matters. All right. What grade are you in? All right. Because that matters when it comes to that. So you say you ran 1 minute when you first ever ran it, 6th grade. All right, Ryan, that's not actually that bad. First time running it, you were at a minute at 6th grade. Okay, so let's take an approach here. Do you also run the 800 or do you run the 200? You tell me here. So you either run the 8 or you run the 2. So because most people in the 400, they run one or the other, depending on their foot speed and their strength. You run the 100. Okay, so you got a little bit of foot speed then, coach, or at least coach thinks you got some foot speed, right? Cool. Okay, so for you, Ryan, what's your goal? What are you trying to get to? What do you think you could run this year coming up for the 400? All right. And I'm going to give you a customized plan for the 400. Let's see. So our target, we were initially at, let me see, your PR. I'm going to give you 60 seconds for right now. I don't know if it was 1-0. All right, so your target, you're trying to go to 55, 50, 50 or 50. Those are two very different times, Ryan. Let me tell you, those are two very different times. How about we do this? How about let's start at 55 right now? Because 50 seconds for a sixth grade or seventh grader is going to be that's moving. That's moving. That's top 1% right there. Okay, in the country. So let's take a target here, and we say the first time we ever ran this 400 was 60 seconds, right? And that's fine, man. That's a good base. It's a good start, right? So I'm gonna erase here, and I'm gonna recommend two things for you, and you let me know. You're eighth grade now, okay? Thank you for that. So, how about 55 is still a good target, right? To at least get there, right? So I think we should always work in increments. I think it's really important that we do that. You can have those. Here's the excelling version, and then here is the minimum goal that we really want to hit. Okay, so let's go with the first part of your race, right? Your first 50 meters, no matter what, is going to be a sprint out, right? And so one of the things that I would learn how to do with your coaches is get out there and learn how to drive out of the blocks, right? The average person your age is probably going to have a drive phase of maybe 10 to 20 meters. The drive phase is just learning how to push forward as fast as you can and accelerate as fast as you can, or build up the momentum as fast as you can until you get into your race, okay? So that first 50 meters, no matter what, no matter the technique I give you, is going to be a sprint out, okay? After that, let's put you in, since you've got 100 meter speed, I suspect, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, I suspect you may be going a little too fast in the first part, or not going fast enough and trying to catch everybody in the back end, right? Both of those techniques don't really work as well unless you really know what you're doing, right? You've really got to be highly technical or highly knowledgeable about the amount of space. So I'm going to say this. Why don't you start out with this? Start out with an even run to begin with. So let's say you want to get too fast. Okay. So what that means is probably around the 100 meter mark here, you've got to settle in your race. You'll probably find yourself moving way too fast in the first part of your race because you're trying to catch everybody in the first half. The problem with that is when you try to catch everybody in the first half, you still got another half to go, right? And so what makes sense here is about 100 meter, 50 to 100 meters into your race, you should have a target. So let's just go with 55 seconds here. If we're trying to go through or hit the finish line in 55 seconds, that means we need to be somewhere in the vicinity of about 27.5 seconds at the 200 meters, okay? If you don't run at least a 25 in the 200, trying to go 27.5 at that 200 meter mark is going to be a tight struggle, okay? So if you find yourself more in the open 200 and you're running like maybe 27, then that wouldn't make sense for us to go 27 in that first half, which means that 55-second target is a little bit more ambitious than where we need to be, okay? So what's your open 200 meter time if you've run it already? Let me know, right? Or even maybe even your open 100 meter time also if you've run that, and just that'll kind of give us an idea of where we really need to be, okay? But to that point, when we look at this and go, based on your 200 meter time, you should be within about a 2-second range of your open time, okay? So you ran 12.8. That's pretty decent at that time. And I get it, that's fine. That's 12.8. Is that from last year or is that still from 6th grade? And if it is, that's fine. Because I would like to know kind of where you are right now. Okay. And again, I'm going to go back to that was last year. All right. So 7th grade, we ran a 12.8. So that means that you probably run somewhere in the vicinity of 25 high, 25 mid, 25 high in the 200, which means you could run, you like statistically and mathematically, you could run a 27.5, which means you can run a 55-second 400, right? Or maybe even faster. So let's stick with the 55 because I think that's a good target. You might even open with that depending on how you do it, okay? Let's look at this. Let's go our first 200 meters, 27.5, right? It's going to be important that you hit that target in that specific time because that'll leave you enough energy in the tank to be able to replicate that on the back end. So what does that mean for our first 100 meters? We really need to be at about 13, what's that, 27 divided by 2, 13.5, so 13, let's call it 13.7. All right, so let's call that about 13.7. All right, so your first 100 meters needs to be around 13.7 if you're going to hit this 200 at about that time, because that's going to give you about a 27.4, 27.5, okay? So ideally, what we need to do when you're training at practice, you know, when you have reps to do, you have to work on your pacing. Absolutely. Really shy, that's how you feel? Or damn, that's how you feel? So what we need to be at is 13.7, right? And when you go to 13.7 here, this is because you're going to be running faster in that second 200. I mean, that second 100, it's probably going to push you somewhere in the vicinity of about 27.3, 27.4. So you have to really relegate or get yourself. No, don't worry about him, Ryan. That's a really close friend of mine. He'd give me a hard time. He's just messing around. And so if you go 13.7, this is probably going to push you at around 27.3, 27.4, and 27.5 at the slowest. Okay, so at practice, what you should be working on is your pacing, learning how to get out for your first 50 meters, and then settling into your race. And it should be a consistent rhythm to your race, a good fast pace, but not under control. Right? So speed under control is going to be your friend here in this first half. Now, the second half of your race, this is where things get a little bit more difficult, okay? The second half of your race, you're dealing with two things. The second half of your race, you're dealing with muscle fatigue and you're dealing with technical breakdown, okay? I'm going to break that down, what I mean by that. So what happens is the first half of your race, you feel good. Everybody feels good in the first half of the 400. People hate the second half of the 400 because it becomes very challenging. So when I say muscle fatigue, this is where you're asking your body, you're demanding of your body a certain level of effort. And that effort comes at a cost. It breaks down the energy or the energy sources within your body. It also breaks down your ability to push forward and pull out what you have in your body. Okay, so the second half, you often feel, we call this second turn here, the monkey on the back, right? This is where it gets crucial. This is where your heart rate is elevated. You become what's known as oxygen deficient, which means your body is not receiving as much air and your cells can't carry as much air to your muscles as possible. Okay? And when that happens, the body starts to get tired. That's what that fatigue comes from. And so what you'll have to deal with here, once you hit that 27.5 through that first 200, yeah, you probably depleted maybe around 50 to 60% of your energy source, right? I love you, Ham. You're my guy. You probably depleted about 50 to 60% of your energy source, which is normal. And so now we've got to distribute the second half evenly. And this is where the patience comes in, right? We're going to have to get very technical here in this turn, meaning we're going to have to make a concerted effort to get our heels, getting our heels up and around our knee, staying on the front part of that foot, staying pushing forward, and also learning how to breathe properly so that we don't panic when we start getting tired. You're going to get tired. And so what you'll have to do at practice is when you feel yourself getting tired, drop your shoulders so you're not up here running tight. Don't tense up your hands. Don't tense up your neck. Don't tighten up your jaw. You have to stay relaxed through the latter part of that race, okay? And so as you hit that 200-meter mark, we do what's called a smooth transitional run. You want to smoothly transition into the latter part of your race by starting to accelerate through the latter part, all right? I don't even know what that means. So as the second part here, as you build up at this 200-meter mark, I want you to start to get your chest bring up your chest and say, or rise up your chest, right? Start to get a little bit taller. Most people go to the arms a little too soon. So stay chest to pocket. So hands coming here, kind of driving back, not elbows, but driving back and down. And you're going to build up. Build up means you're going to start to accelerate so that you can use that momentum in the last 120 meters of the curve, okay? So about here, near that 100-meter start line is where, or like you call it, like the 4x1 exchange zones. You might see that, like the last relay exchange zone for the 4x1 relay. You'll see like those big triangles, right? That's an acceleration point to where you really want to get your butt home, okay? So at the 200-meter mark, once you've hit 27.2 to 27.5, you do need to accelerate from this last 200 to 100, between the last 100, excuse me, that third 100 here, you have to accelerate. It's going to be critical that you do that. If you do not start to accelerate there, you're going to have a problem, okay? You said, Ron, you said you ran regionals for track. That's fine. Last year, your team, and you had a 50 for the 4x1, I'm assuming. Not bad. Okay. And what state are you in, by the way? All right. You saying the 50, yeah, 4x1. I got you. All right. So you hitting 27.5 here, you should be good. Build up. In Michigan, that's not bad, dude, because it's freezing up there. Hit your target in 27.5. Then I want you to start accelerating at this 200-meter. Not like I don't want you to go from like 0 to 10 or like 5 to 10. When I mean like effort level, if you're here at 200 meters and you're like a 6, I want you to go from 6 to 7 to 8 in that third 100. And then in that last 100 to 120 meters, we're going to go from 8 to 10 and give it all the way what we have back at the second half. In this second half here, in that last 120, most people think you have to stretch out for like your strides, right? You try to cover distance, and most people do what's called overstriding. We don't want you to overstride here. The key to getting home at a very quick fashion in that last 100 to 120 meters is getting your feet down on the ground. So here's the analogy I typically give my athletes. Who's going to win the race? If I put a Honda next to a Ferrari, right? Who's going to win the race if I put a Honda next to a Ferrari? Most people right now are probably going to say, the Ferrari's going to win. The Ferrari's going to win. Yeah, that's what you would think, right? The problem is I haven't given you the whole picture, the full details. The Ferrari is up off the ground because it's getting the oil change, right? There's no way that the Ferrari can beat the Honda if it's off the ground. So what I mean by that is, if your feet are off the ground, you can't accelerate forward. So it makes sense for you to get your feet down on the ground as much as possible, as fast as you can, while maintaining your technical form. And that's what I talk about, that technical breakdown. When you get tired, you start flailing, you start going all over the place. We don't want that. So we stay tall, driving our hands down from the chest, down to the hips, like a lever, right? As fast as we can. That way the elbow pulls all the way back. And we get our eyes completely focused on that finish line. That last 120, feet are going on the ground and we're accelerating forward as fast as possible. And it's going to take considerably more effort, about 30% more effort than it will in that first half of the race. But if you do that, if you give 30% more effort in the second half of your race, you will hit that 55-second mark or faster. Okay? So again, first 50 meters, let me recap for you because I know I just said a lot. Your first 50 meters is going to be so important because that uses that stored energy source that you have in your body, and it's free in your body. It's like a rocket boost. Sprinting out the first 50 meters, settle in your race, and if you're running an even pace, you should know what your 100 meter mark is. You should know what your 200 meter mark is. You should know what your 300 meter mark is as well. So if you're at practice, you should be practicing how to run even splits across your races, okay? If you feel like you want to go a little bit faster, feel free. Just know that it's going to come at a cost on the back end of your race, all right? So the more you put in on the front part of your race, the more it costs you on the back part of your race. However, at the same time, if you don't put enough in the first part of your race, you're going to have too much to make up on the back end of your race. You'll probably be out of contact with the rest of those runners. Now, you might make up some ground, but if you give away 40 or 50 meters to these individuals, what's up, Dave? If you give up 40 or 50 meters in that first part of your race, it's going to be really difficult unless you're exceedingly and abundantly faster than those other individuals to walk them down. I don't recommend that technique because most people just don't have that kind of foot speed. Thank you, Ryan, man. That was a great question, and I don't have any problems breaking this stuff down. Good luck. And matter of fact, man, don't forget, if you hit me up on YouTube, hit me up on IG, and let me see your races. Let me see a technical form. And, I'll break down some stuff that can help you and work with you to help you get your sprint technique together and do some drills that will help you get a lot faster, right? What's up, Duck? Oh, man, I'm good, brother. You have a good one too, Ryan. Thanks for your question. Dave, I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you hopping on here, man. Dave, kind words. I appreciate you. Thank you. And so again, we got track coaches here, man. We got track athletes all on this thing. And so what I did was just break down real quick for an individual who's running the 400, middle schooler, just wanting to know how to run faster. Most people have a hard time figuring out the 400. That's just one technique. I do have some more advanced techniques that I'll share as I start to upload more stuff on YouTube, more content. And so stay tuned for that. If you haven't yet, give me a follow. I post different workouts. Right now I'm coaching cross country. So all the cross country athletes are getting ready to walk into our sectional meet. And that's where we are. You're right. Yeah, Doug, you already know, man, that 400 ain't no joke, man. But guys, my background here, I've been doing this for a couple of decades, man. I'm taking kids from, I had a girl, again, she was running like in the 60s, and her sophomore year, by the time I got done with her sophomore year, she was running 57 low. And so it's like, man, we've done some pretty good things, but again, I also coach jumpers, I also coach hurdlers. And so anytime I can hop on here and just help out, and feel free. Again, if you hit me on, if you hit my YouTube channel in my bio, what'll happen is it'll give you all of my social media. And then you can send me, you can't send videos on TikTok for free, but you can send videos on IG. So if you want me to do like a technical breakdown of something that you're doing, feel free to send it to me on IG and I'll check it out and I'll post it and help you as much as I can. All right. So guys, that's the 400. That's one technique. And then what I'll do is I'll do another live sometime this week. And what I'll do is I'll break down a more advanced way to run the 400. Like somewhere, like if somebody wants to, for example, if you're in high school and you're running like a 49 or 48, I'll teach you how to run a 46. I'll show you the way how you can run a 46 if you're running like at least a 49, right, in high school. And I may make some adjustments on that. So for like some middle schoolers too, if you guys are in middle school and you're running like in the mid 50s, like Ryan was, or he wants to run mid 50s, I'll show him how to run like a 51 or a 50 in middle school. But I'm gonna tell you, it's not easy, right? It's not easy. So I'll give you a really advanced sample or example later on this week. And I'll break down as a high schooler how you can run 46, or as a girl, how you can run 53 in the 400, right? Oh, great question. How important is, that's the question, how important is the weight room for that 400 meters? I cannot stress to you enough how critical it is that you develop your explosiveness in the weight room, your core stability, your core strength, your flexibility, and those things, right? So there's a couple things I'm going to recommend at all times, right? Anytime you're in the weight room. One, flexibility. Two, mobility. In actuality, I should probably say mobility first. Mobility is critical, right? So if you're in the weight room, you want to do these three things: mobility, flexibility, ability. I can't spell. I think I spelled that wrong. Flexibility, or is it A? Is it A? Or is it A? I don't know. Whatever. Mobility, flexibility, and then control or stability. Okay. So what ends up happening, guys, is people go in, they want to lift as much as they can. And I get it, the one max or the one rep, everybody loves doing that, right? And that's cool. What's happening? Uh-oh. I got a verification. Hang on, y'all. Oops. I got to drag a puzzle here. Hang on one second, y'all. There we go. All right, so I had to do a puzzle real quick to get it. So mobility is going to be the most important. I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say this proud. Mobility is going to be the most important thing that you can do in the weight room as an athlete. Mobility is different than flexibility. Flexibility is your ability to move with your muscles, right? The range of motion within your muscles. The mobility is the range of motion within your joints and your muscles combined. And that's the kind of the simple way I can put it. When you get into this weight room, we should always be incorporating mobility in some capacity so that the range of motion within our body increases. And that comes with the flexibility at the same time, or similar, right? But if you focus on mobility, flexibility, and control or stability, your speed will enhance much quicker than it would if you leave mobility out. Weight room is critical for us to be able to sprint fast, run, and move fast, but also for the demand of your body to be able to handle what we're asking of it, right? So great question, Duck, man. I really appreciate that. And if you're in the weight room and all you're doing is just lifting for strength, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're going to be stiff. You're going to be inflexible. And then you may not run as fast as you really want to. All right. So I am going to encourage you all to jump in here and go, I got to make sure I'm getting the mobility here. And I'm going to cut out here in about a minute. You got to get the mobility. You got to get the flexibility, but also you have to have the control and stability to come with it. That means being able to, you can't lift your knee if you don't have control over it, right? And that comes in that technical form. Be able to hold that in that second half of your race is going to be incredibly important for that, the control, the stability, but also the mobility, the range of motion, etc. So that's that, y'all. That's breaking it down, how to do a 400-meter run. Later on this week, maybe tomorrow or Wednesday. Matter of fact, I'll probably do it like maybe Wednesday around this time or maybe in the evening. I'll do a breakdown, an advanced technique that you can use to trick yourself into running a second to two faster in the 400. But I'm going to tell you, it's not easy. So stay tuned for that. I'll also do a breakdown of maybe the 800. Then I'll also start doing some breakdowns of the hurdles and the high jump and the other jumps and long jump, etc. And again, if you don't know, as far as the jumps, I'm the jumps coach over at Lithia Springs High School now. I was at New Manchester in the last 5 years. We've had last 3 years, we've had 5 individual state jump champions created out of that. So 5 jump titles, I should say, between the long, the triple, and the high jump, both boys and girls. So looking forward to that. And if you put that little ping on, whatever the bell to let you know that I'm live, and you will be notified the next time I'm in here, and make sure you join. And if you have a question, if you got a question or something specific that you need answered, shoot me a message on TikTok, or you shoot me a message on IG, or shoot me a message in my community on YouTube, and then I'll get that answered for you on the next live as well, or one of the next lives. and we'll get you, and then, answer as much as we can. And if you have specific things that you want me to evaluate, send those jokers over to me on IG, or just tag me in one of your videos, and then I'll do a breakdown of what you guys have going on. All right. All right. Well, it is time for me to go. I have to get back to making the donuts. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you for joining the live today. I'm excited to be able to continue to help you guys. I'm Track Coach Jones. And hey, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Looking forward to getting to know you. And I hope you guys have a great day. We out of here.